Peppa Pig is a show that is far from ending. The series has been getting new episodes since 2004, so it's definitely not stopping anytime soon. That being said, have you ever imagined all the incredible things that could happen in the next season of this cartoon?
Peppa Pig.
Human neighbors. Humans have always been a big mystery in Peppa Pig. We know they exist, and we've even seen some of them, like the pirate and the queen, but it seems like the number of humans is very small compared to the animals. To make things even stranger, there are no humans in the recurring cast, which makes them feel even more mysterious. Because of that, we would all be very surprised if a human family moved into town and became neighbors of the pig family. This is the kind of change that would bring a fresh new vibe to the show, something the series has been trying to do in recent years with the wedding of Mr. Bull and Mrs. Cow, the appearance of Aunt Dottie, and of course, the birth of Peppa's youngest sister, Eevee. It would be really cool to see Peppa becoming friends with a human girl, and to see this human family taking part in events with the other families in town. Not to mention that this would create amazing opportunities to reveal a bit more about the mysterious history of humanity in the Peppa Pig timeline. This is just one of the 12 ideas you need to know for the new season of Peppa Pig. The moment has come! Let's enjoy another Cinewave together! Miss Rabbit's wedding. The wedding of Mr. Bull and Mrs. Cow was very beautiful, and few people ever expected that to happen one day, which shows how the writers of Peppa Pig are increasingly willing to evolve each character's story to give that feeling that Peppa's world is growing along with its fans. Because of that, some fans are rooting for Miss Rabbit to be the next one to get married. She is definitely one of the coolest characters on the show and deserves to be loved, but she has spent all these years without finding love. Not that this is necessary, since Miss Rabbit seems to be very independent and perfectly capable of being happy on her own, but that also doesn't mean she is forbidden from entering a romantic relationship. It's possible that Miss Rabbit simply hasn't found someone who truly matches her yet, which could change in the next season of Peppa Pig. It's easy to imagine this happening in an episode where Miss Rabbit gets a new customer at one of her shops and ends up having such a great conversation with him that she almost ends up late for another job, which would be impressive considering she has always managed to balance her dozens of jobs so well. From there, the relationship between the two would naturally grow until they eventually decided to get married, giving rise to one of the most iconic episodes in the entire show. Carol Cow returns. If there's one character that leaves fans with a lot of questions, it's Carol Cow. She appeared very little throughout the series, usually only in the background of scenes, almost like a background extra, but she seems to be much more than that, especially since she has already been seen alongside Mrs. Cow, suggesting that they could be mother and daughter. Even so, Carol didn't even appear at Mrs. Cow's wedding, which makes everything even stranger. This doesn't seem like a mistake by the show, but rather a mystery built in a 100% intentional way, and this mystery could be revealed in the next season with the return of Carol Cow, a return from the dead. Yes, that's exactly what you heard. It's very possible that the little cow passed away at some point during the series, which would explain her absence from Mrs. Cow's wedding, and also why no one ever talks about her. It's a heavy subject that brings back painful memories for everyone who knew her. Now just imagine if she somehow came back to life after all this time. Paternal grandparents. Peppa's grandparents have appeared many times in the show, but only 2 of them. We all have 4 grandparents, even though we don't always get the chance to meet all of them. Peppa has met her maternal grandparents, who are Mommy Pig's parents. However, we have never seen her paternal grandparents, who are Grandpa Pig's parents. Now that more unknown members of the family, like Aunt Dottie, are starting to appear, the next season would be the perfect time for Peppa's family to grow even more with the introduction of her paternal grandparents. How different would they be from Grandpa and Granny Pig that we already know? Very different, probably, which only makes us even more excited to see them interacting with each other and discovering their differences. But what would you like to see happen in the next season of Peppa Pig? Leave your answer in the comments below along with the hashtag idea so we can see it. Ben and Holly. Not everyone knows this, but Peppa Pig isn't the only cartoon that takes place in the universe of the most famous little pig in the United Kingdom. In fact, there are a few other less popular animated shows, and one of them is Ben and Holly's Little Kingdom, which is about a kingdom where elves and fairies live. Yes, the series explores the magical side of this world far more than Peppa Pig does. Ben and Holly have already been referenced several times in Peppa Pig, with the characters appearing in images and things like that. However, they have never actually appeared in person, face to face, which might change in this next season. Bringing the fandoms of both shows together in a crossover episode would be an instant formula for success. The Tooth Fairy has even appeared in Peppa Pig before, which makes seeing Peppa meeting another fairy and an elf not sound so absurd after all. Dottie's family. Dottie's appearance itself was one of the coolest things to happen in Peppa Pig in recent years, so of course the character is going to appear again very soon. We didn't get much information about Mommy Pig's sister's life in her first appearance, but her next appearance could tell us more about her life abroad, and especially about her family. And by family, we're not talking about Mommy Pig and Peppa's grandparents, but rather the family Dottie may have built overseas, with her husband and maybe even a daughter. That would be another really cool way to expand the pig family. An episode with Peppa, George, and Eevee visiting Dottie's house and meeting her daughter, as well as her husband, would be a lot of fun. Origin of the animals. Ever since Peppa Pig was released in 2004, fans have been asking a question that has never really been answered. Why did the animals start acting like humans? We still don't know the answer to this day. Some people think there's no real reason, while others believe that something must have happened. And it seems that something really did happen, since regular humans appeared to be the dominant species in the past, with the cavemen of this universe being human rather than animals, which means the animals came later. Maybe some kind of evolution, or a mutation caused by radiation. There's no way to guarantee an exact answer, at least not until an episode focused on this topic is released. The chances of the next season bringing an episode like this are pretty high, since it's a theme we would all love to see explored. George adopted. George was Peppa's youngest little brother for years, until that title was taken by Eevee, a change that was very well received and that reveals something important. The series isn't afraid to change things we already know about our favorite characters. Since there was no negative backlash to George becoming the middle child, it's not that unbelievable that the show could be preparing another big change for the little one. A change that wouldn't exactly be a transformation, but rather a discovery. The discovery that George is adopted. We've talked about this theory a few times here on the channel, and if you've heard about it before, you'll know there are several signs that George could very well be someone else's child, maybe even Aunt Dottie's. Will they really have the courage to make a reveal like that in Peppa Pig? You know what would be awesome? Subscribing right now and getting all our videos straight on YouTube. No more dinosaurs. Another possible change involving George isn't that radical, but it's still quite unexpected. What if he stops liking dinosaurs? That has been his obsession since the day he was born. George doesn't just like dinosaurs, that's simply his entire lifestyle. However, it's completely normal for children to stop liking certain things after a while, and there's nothing stopping this from being the case with George and dinosaurs. What was once the most important thing in a child's life can become irrelevant in a matter of moments. Even so, anyone would be shocked if Peppa's little brother simply gave up on Mr. Dinosaur and said he's no longer fun. Maybe this would be something temporary, lasting just one episode or a few episodes. If it turns out to be a permanent change, it would represent a truly new phase in George's life.
Dinosaur.
New school. Time in Peppa Pig may move much more slowly than time in the real world, but it seems like the series is increasingly losing its fear of letting time move forward, bringing changes such as Eevee being born, Mr. Bull getting married, Mommy Rabbit having more children, and so on. With that in mind, the next step might be having Peppa change schools. She's still in kindergarten, but if time moves forward just a little more, it will be time for her to go to elementary school with Susie and her friends. At that point, Madame Gazelle will no longer be teaching her, but instead a new class made up of Eevee, while Peppa will get a new teacher, Edmund the Prodigy. Anyone who has even the slightest idea of who Edmund Elephant is also knows that he isn't just the smartest child in Peppa Pig, he's actually smarter than most of the adults in the show. And do you know what that means? If Edmund wanted to, he could skip several years of school and go straight to college. And we're not exaggerating. In real life, there are many cases of child prodigies who start college at a very young age, and Edmund fits perfectly into that group. Since Peppa Pig loves to portray some characters as absurdly good at what they do, like Miss Rabbit who has dozens of jobs, it's easy to imagine the series making an episode about Edmund leaving Peppa's class to start studying at a college. First steps. Something that truly feels like it's only a matter of time is Eevee taking her first steps. It's unlikely that she'll remain a newborn forever, especially since the show has been putting a lot of focus on her and seems to want her to become the center of attention, which is hard to do when she's still a baby who can't even walk yet. In fact, it's possible that, at this very moment, the episode in which Eevee manages to stand up and take her first steps is already being produced. If that's the case, you can be sure the whole world will be moved by it. Even people who aren't fans of Peppa Pig will hear about the fact that Eevee learned how to walk.
Baby Eevee.
We've prepared 2 videos you're going to love. Pick one and keep having fun here with Teen Videos.